A report by the IMF on Ghana's external debt reveals that if Ghana fails to honor obligations under loan agreements with China, it could lose revenue from its mineral resources and electricity sales to China. Professor Nino Dona spoke at a public forum on China global civilization and prosperity in Accra.
The Kwame Nkrumah interchange, what is happening is money from Brazil. So Gaval is a Brazilian company that, with a contractual agreement, they have to construct. So if China also provides funds for Bui, they must do so. If you want them to provide resources to operationalize or make the operations of ECG in terms of distribution and all that goes with it effective and efficient, and it is sad that they would like to play a role, how do we paint this in a negative light? So I'm not involved in any of the arrangements, but I think from global perspective, historical antecedents, we need to have a positive mind and see how far that can bring us benefits.
The World Bank is calling for more efforts to boost the country's agricultural sector as a means to tackle inflation. This comes on the back of a report from the Bretton Woods Institution that revealed that the challenge has pushed some 850,000 Ghanaians into poverty last year. This report has the rest of the story. In 2022, Ghana experienced a severe economic crisis characterized by soaring inflation rates. The year-on-year inflation rate surged from 14% in January to a staggering 54% in December, making it the highest inflation level seen since the early 2000s. This inflation spike had devastating consequences for food security and poverty in the country. The rising prices of food, which outpaced the increase in non-food items, hit the poorest segment of the population the hardest. As a result, the real purchasing power of Ghanaians plummeted. The World Bank report estimates that the inflation crisis in Ghana pushed an additional 3.5 million people into extreme poverty in 2022. The crisis also had a negative impact on food security, with the number of people facing hunger increasing by 2.3 million. What then could be the way forward in addressing the challenge?
When it comes to food insecurity, we have to beef up the agricultural sector, because that's really how prices can impact prices as far as food is concerned. And in doing that, we have to empower farmers to be able to react to the global issues fast enough. Definitely food prices will come down and therefore impact on the affordability.
Economist Dr. Priscilla Chumisi Bafo is of the view that efforts must be made to produce key agricultural inputs locally to help address inflation.
The issue that sticks out is the fact that the high cost of fertilizer is translating directly into the cost of food. And as a country, I think that we should look at alternatives of domestic production of fertilizer, and so that we can wean ourselves off the dependence on import of these things that have a direct impact on the prices of goods and services.
The Ghana Export Promotion Authority says the services export sector, particularly under the AFCFTA, presents a major economic opportunity for tech companies in the country. But a deputy CEO of the authority, Samuel Dentu, says that for IT companies to take advantage of such opportunities, they must be able to put together tenders that meet international standards. He spoke to the media on the sidelines of an international competitive bidding training program organized by his outfit in Accra.
And tall in the sub-region, and for that matter in Africa, as far as IT services is concerned. That feat that has been achieved or is being achieved needs to be exported. And when you want to export services, unfortunately, it's not like goods that you can carry with you and go and show samples and stuff like that. What we do is also to take them on missions. There are tech fairs all over the world that we take them to be able to exhibit what they can do. But once you exhibit what you can do, the question then comes, okay, how do you convince me that you have the capacity to be able to deliver what you said you can do? And that comes through the bidding, the technical questions, all the technicalities that are displayed as part of the tendering process, and that's what we want to take them through. So the advice I would give is that, first of all, we should believe in ourselves, that we have what it takes. I mean, what somebody sitting in Australia can do, somebody sitting in Accra or in Ghana can also.
Let's now go to the currency market and find out how major trading currencies are faring. Well, let's now check out some other stories that have been making the rounds in the world of business today.
The World Bank has called for more efforts to boost the country's agricultural sector as a means to tackle inflation. This comes on the back of a report from the Bretton Woods Institution that the challenge had pushed some 850,000 Ghanaians into poverty last year. Government spends some 7 billion cedis this year as interest payment on treasury bills. This, according to Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, defeats the savings purpose of the domestic debt exchange program. India outlaws the export of non-basmati white rice in an attempt to ward off looming domestic price spikes. Non-basmati white grain currently accounts for about a quarter of India's rice exports. Experts warned the move could push up global food prices.
Now, Director of Research at the Institute for Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwache, has cautioned government to be guided by the incidence of overspending and its impact in past election years. Speaking at the sidelines of a workshop on the country's 17th IMF bailout, he observed that the 2024 election could be a potential threat to Ghana's IMF program. Ghana's history with the fund shows the country usually visits the Bretton Woods institution after a general election.
It's a potential threat. In fact, the IMF itself, if you read the program, they have identified some risks, shocks, external shocks, and then the program. They have identified the program, potential social upheaval. In other words, if the measures bite too much, affect people too much, they may rise up, protest, and then you know that getting to elections, most people, workers and so on, they agitate, they want to take advantage, put pressure on government and so on. So the IMF has identified a number of risks to approach, and one of them, they said, could be the election. And we have seen that during every election, we overspend, we exceed our budget deficits and so on. We cause more inflation, we destabilize the economy. So what I'm seeing is that the program has put the government in a very tight, position. And it can affect your political fortunes because you don't have as much room to spend as you would have liked to. So it's always a threat. Whether the government can stay within the program targets, expenditure limits during the elections, is something that is very difficult for me to speculate.
Well, that will be all for Business Brief here on TV3. For more business stories, please visit our website, 3news.com. My name is Michael Obodu. Thank you for watching. As always, please stay safe.